Okay, now we're going to turn to 6.6 on nested loops and look at nested loops. Loops can be kind of complicated, and so you want to pay attention when you're working on them. Once you kind of understand them, they can be used in a number of different ways. Um, so the first one we're going to look at is a nested loop to print out all the two-letter combinations. Let's say you're going to look at domain names that are only two letters long and just want to do all the possibilities. So again, the first letter could be A, and then the second letter could be A or B or C or D. There could be lots of combinations, all the way down to Z, A, Z. But then you're going to increment the next letter to B, and then you have an A, B, B, A, B, C, B, B, C, B, D. So you have all those combinations. So there's just lots of combinations all the way down to ZW and ZZ here. So this is code for doing this. It does talk about incrementing letters, which sometimes isn't the most obvious. So you have to. So we have two letters, the first letter and the second letter, and we started equal to a question mark here initially, but right away we're going to reset it to like A. So letter 1 is A. And then we say while letter 1 is less than Z, less than or equal to Z. And so again, with characters, A is less than B, B is less than C, so you can actually compare one letter to the other. And then we have this, so this is what we call our outside loop. It goes from here to here, and then we have our inside loop here to here. And so here we have letter 2 is equal to A, and then we say while letter 2 is less than Z, we go through this. And in here we have an increment. We're adding 1 to letter 2, and adding 1 to a character just moves it one more in the alphabet. So if the letter starts off to be A and we add 1 to it, it'll be B. And again, so this increment, this plus plus, is just like saying letter 2 equals letter 2 plus 1, or letter 2 plus equals 1. This is just another way of writing that out here. And again, we're writing it out here, letter 1 plus plus, so adding 1 to letter 1 here. And this will loop through, so you can kind of follow through this line by line, just watching it. So letter 1 is equal to A, and while letter 1 is less than Z, so A is less than Z, so it's going to go into this loop. Now we set letter 2 equals to A, and while letter 2 is less than Z, we're going to print out. And the first thing they'll print out is aa.com, because that's what the two letters are. And then we're going to increment letter 2. So letter 2 goes from A to B. And then we loop back up. This is our inside loop. We're still stuck in this little inside loop here. And so while B is less than Z, yep, B is less than Z, that's true. So we print out A, letter 1 is still A, and letter 2 is now B, ab.com. And then we increment, oops, sorry about that, my video just got uploaded. So then we increment letter 2 again, and so we'll letter 2 will be C, and then we'll print out a C, and then D. Each time letter 2 will be incremented all the way along, and eventually letter 2 will be Y, and we'll print off a Y, and we'll add increment letter 2, and it'll be Z, and we'll check if Z is less than or equal to Z, and it is equal, so that is true. We print out az.com here, and we increment it, and it goes above Z. I don't know what special character is above Z, like maybe a period or some weird character like that, but anyway, it goes back up here. Now letter 2 won't be less than this. So this will be false, and so we'll get out of this loop. And now that gives us a chance to increment letter 1. So letter 1 will be incremented to B. And then we're in this bracket brings us up to this while loop here. These match together. So again, now we'll check if B less than Z. Letter 1 is a B, and is that less than Z? Yes. And so now we go in here and we set letter 2 back to A, and we start this loop again, and then we'll be looping in this loop again and again. It reminds me of the structure of like an odometer in a car, where you have the tens, you loop over one of the digits and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when it gets out done with 9, then it adds 1 to the next character, the next level, and goes back up here, and then goes back up here and goes 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's kind of does a loop inside the loop. So you can look at different ways of trying to understand that. So it walks you through this example and prints it out some more. and works on here. It's trying to do a histogram, so uh, this isn't as tightly a nested loop. We have a while loop up here. Says enter an integer negative to quit, and we read that in, and then if we check if they entered a number greater than 0, we'll print that out, and then we'll use an actual a for loop to print that out. So we'll print out a number star is equal to whatever number they entered. And then we loop, and then we keep doing this. And each time we'll ask them again to enter a number, do some check if they entered a positive number, and then loop again. So it's just another structure of here's a while loop with a for loop inside of it. And here we actually have a while loop with an if inside that and a for inside that. And so it helps when you're structuring these to use indenting to help you format. And in fact, BlueJ will color code these differently for you. But probably the most common way we see loops within loops is the nested for loops, where we'll have a for loop with another for loop inside of it. And again, often we're doing things like here we're doing rows and columns. So we're working on each row, and each row will have a number of columns. So we'll go boom, 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 kind of do a grid kind of format. So anytime we're working with a grid, we often see this thing. And then so you can ask yourself, how many times is this going to be executed? And so you can work out how many times is this done, and then how many times is this done, and multiply them together, because every time we do this once, we'll do this one again and again and again and again. So in this case, we're doing this 3 times, 0, 1, 2. So we'll do this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go up and do this one to the next one, and then come back in here and do this again. So go through this, see if you can calculate these answers, how often these ones will be executed for this. So here's another structure, some other questions about output in these loops, where again we have a for loop and another for loop inside of it, and we're printing these out. This is a really good exercise just to see how this prints out rows and columns and what is set up here as we go along. See if you can understand that printout statement. It is kind of confusing here. Because there's not a print line. Sometimes we'll have a print line after this to actually set this up in rows and columns. So again, and here's the challenge activities with this. Now, if you're really confused about nested loops, that's okay. We will eventually use them more in advanced C sharp, or programming stuff. But they're not used too much in this Java 1 sequence. They're used more in advanced code practice. So you should be just familiar with them and able to kind of understand them. But you may not need to be writing them quite yet, but it helps to understand them. And later on, if you go on into programming, you'll use these sort of nested loops frequently. So it's good to see them.